Hello, Peter for Sunrise here, Sirus, and welcome to the first part of my look back video at the 7th generation of console gaming. In this video, I'm basically just going to talk about my overall experience with one of the main consoles of the current generation, which is, for this video, the Xbox 360. Why am I talking about this? Mostly because this console generation is ending, or it has already ended, if you think the Wii U is the start of another generation. Anyway, I thought it would be nice just to talk about my overall experience, what do I think of the consoles themselves, in this 3-part video. What I'm basically going to be talking about in the red version is what do I think of the consoles themselves, what do I think the gaming community think of them. And then I'll be talking about the gaming library themselves, which one's my first game I played for 360, which one's my favorite RPG, which one's my favorite non-RPG, which one's my hated game, which one is the worst game I played, and etc. And that's how this video is going to go. And without further ado, just a disclaimer, this video is extremely subjective, so yeah, take note of that. But anyway, now that I got that out of the way, let's begin the video. The first console I'm going to be starting is the first console I ever got, which is the Xbox 360.
And you are now part of the Xbox 360 family. Welcome.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to discuss is why did I got the Xbox 360 first and not the PS3 or Wii? One, the PS3 was too expensive at the time, and you have to admit the PS3 was really expensive at its launching date, ludicrous price. And two, the Wii was sold out, so the Xbox 360 was the only console I could get. Now, what do I personally think of the console? It's probably the most well-liked console out of this generation. Except for the start. The start was really jumpy. Because why PS3 start was really bad with how it was priced, the 360 had a bigger flaw in my opinion, which is the red ring of death. Oh yeah, I'm bringing that in, because when you get down to it, the red ring of death is a real problem when the Xbox 360 first launched, and for people who bought it at launch, it became really irritated, and the red ring of death became the Xbox 360 Achilles heel. The 360 got ridiculed because of the red ring of death, and personally, I don't blame them. It should be ridiculed. But besides that, I think the Xbox 360 was a pretty good console. It had a good gaming library. The online was great, probably the best online experience in a console this generation. The menu interface system was great, probably the best out of all the consoles. And Microsoft probably does one thing particularly well that makes it probably the most favorable console that gamers look upon. And that thing is marketing. Microsoft knows how to market the Xbox 360 well. It knows how to market it really well. Not only for the main console themselves, but also for its slew of exclusives. Gears of War, TV commercial. Halo, TV commercial. Fable, TV commercial. And believe it or not, even Lost Odyssey, a console style / Japanese RPG, has a TV commercial advertising it by Microsoft. That thing is unheard of in this generation. So yeah, Microsoft really knows how to advertise its stuff well. Nintendo also advertised it, but I probably think Microsoft overall is king of how to market stuff this generation. And PS3, as much as I love Sony, they don't really advertise the exclusives at all. So yeah, Microsoft, king of commercialism. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is where do I think the Xbox 360 rank within other current gen consoles. It's probably my least favorite out of the three as a multi-console owner, because when you get down to it, the hardware problems with the Red Ring of Death really holds it back. It really sucks when you get Red Ring of Death, let me tell you. And in terms of game library, I probably like it more than the Nintendo Wii, but I probably like the PS3 game library more because Xbox 360 game library you can probably get in the PS3 as well, and it doesn't really have that many exclusives when you get down to it. They used to have a bigger list of exclusives, but it's a good amount of its exclusives got later ported into PS3. Example being Mass Effect. It got ported into PS3 this year, I think. And then another example is Eternal Sonata. It was Xbox 360, but then got ported into the PS3. And another example, Tales of Vesperia. It was Xbox 360 first, but then got ported to the PS3. Albeit the PS3 port never left Japan, but you get my point. And that's mostly it. It's probably my least favorite console, mostly because of the hardware problems at the start. But overall, I still like the console. It's just the weakest in my opinion. Okay, now that I talked about console, let's talk about the important stuff that the console provides, which are the games. I'm just going to be basically talking about what was my first game I got for the 360, what's my favorite RPG, what's my favorite non-RPG, which one's my most hated, and which is the worst game I played for the 360. Firstly, the first game I ever played for the 360 is Oblivion. Now, when I bought Oblivion, I didn't know what it was a great game. I just bought it because the cover was nice. And nope. That's the only real reason why I bought the game. Out of all the games that was on display, that one had the most interesting cover to me. Mostly because it didn't really have anything on it except for the cover and the symbol. I was like, huh. Interesting. So I decided to buy it. It was probably also my first PC style / Western style RPG I played, and I really had a great time with it. I was pretty much blown away by what I could do in the game, the customization, all the content that was in the game. Overall, I think it's a really good game. I mean, looking back at it, it had some problems like with level scaling. But overall, I still really enjoyed my time with Oblivion, and I did replay a good amount on it with a warrior's playstyle, thief playstyle, mage's playstyle, and throughout each of the 3 playthroughs, I did everything I could, repeating the quest over and over again. And if you were to ask what's my favorite part of the game, doing the Dark Brotherhood questline. The Dark Brotherhood questline was so much fun, especially the Who Did It quest. Awesome quest line. And yeah, though my 360 copy of the game is broken, so I had to buy it again for the PS3 for the Game of the Year edition, just because. So yeah. Okay, the next game I'm gonna talk about is the game that I spend the most time on, and that game is Fallout 3. Now, when Fallout 3 first released, I wasn't really interested in the game, mostly because I wasn't really interested in the setting. I'm not really all that big of a fan of the apocalyptic future type of setting. My favorite setting in video game in general is probably high fantasy, with magic, knights, dragons, goblins, orcs, all that mythological creatures, mythological weapons. magic weapons, you know, that sort of stuff. I wasn't really into the apocalyptic future, but I bought Fallout 3 because I heard it was a really good game, and when I bought it, I was pretty hooked on it. Like Oblivion, I really loved the amount of customization that was in Fallout 3, and I really like the combat as well. It's not particularly the best type of combat that the game's going for, which is the first-person shooting or third-person shooting. You go to a third-person perspective, but it's really fun with the VOD system. And I do like sneaking in the game, even though the sneaking mechanics has some problems, but still fun. And then it's also pretty fun sniping people at a distance as well, especially in VODs. And another thing going for it in terms of combat is how the game level scale your enemy, because like Oblivion, there is a sort of level scaling where you get powerful enemies on the map when you level up. But Fallout 3 did provide you with different types of enemies you encounter throughout from level 1 to the end of the game. Oblivion didn't really do that, and it's just really palette swaps with the weaker enemies you encounter from the start to the end. Well, that's how I feel. And the story and characters I thought were pretty good. And overall, I really had a fun time playing through Fallout 3. Now, Fallout 3 isn't my favorite Fallout game. It's not even my favorite Fallout game out of this gen. That would be Fallout New Vegas. But I just really like how Fallout 3 introduced me to the Fallout series in general, and because of Fallout 3 I bought Fallout Collection and I played through Fallout 1, which I enjoyed immensely. So overall, I'm glad to have played Fallout 3 when I did. Now for my favorite RPG on the Xbox 360, and it is Tales of Vesperia. Man, do I love this game. It just had so much going for it. The characters are great, they all have each unique personalities that bounce off each other, which makes for great character dynamics. The story I think was pretty good for the first 2 arcs. Third arc fell a bit, but still I think the overall story is still pretty good. And the gameplay is simply fantastic. Best Team Symphonia combat system in the series, and probably my second favorite combat system, with races being first. There's just so much depth to it, and just so much fun playing through the game. And each character is so very unique to play through with her air combos. And overall, I just think it's a great game. It has a good story, great characters, fantastic combat, pretty good soundtrack, and overall just a fantastic game, and I would recommend people buy it if they haven't tried it out. Now my favorite non-RPG on the 360 that I played is...
I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, rapture can become your city as well.
BioShock. Now, when I got BioShock for the first time, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I bought it because it was pretty cheap at the time, and I just thought it would be interesting to play through, and I heard good things about it. And man, there are a lot of good stuff in it. Firstly, I thought the gameplay was really fun with how the game tries to go old school with you having multiple weapons to choose from and trying to conserve ammo, and it was pretty unique from the usual FPS that I usually play this generation with the Call of Duty arcade style 2 weapon limit thing. So it was really fun. And upgrading weapons was also pretty fun, and I did felt that the weapon upgrading system was pretty good, as there was a significant difference between a non-upgraded weapon and an upgraded weapon. And I love using plasma in this game. It's so much fun to use, from just putting people on fire. My favorite powers would probably be the ice power, just freezing enemy and just smashing the ice sculptures to pieces. Really satisfying to me. And I thought the story and characters were also great. BioShock has one of the best intros I ever seen in this generation of console gaming, and also has the best ending I've ever seen. Well, for the good ending, I didn't went for the bad ending. BioShock good ending overall just is a great payoff if you've been trying to save all the little sisters as you can. Great payoff. And the story also has one of the most epic plot twists as well, with the man chooses and the slaves obey cutscenes. So overall, I really enjoyed playing through BioShock. I even bought another copy of BioShock for my friend's birthday present, because I thought he would really enjoy it. So yeah. Oh boy. Next on the subject list is the game I hated the most in the Xbox 360. Now, when you get down to it, I don't really like talking about games I hate, or games I don't even like. The biggest insult to a game for me is not being known, because you can't really buy the game if you don't know what it is. So yeah. But anyway, I'm discussing the Xbox 360 in general in this look back video, so I must discuss both the good and the bad. And the bad is...
The uprising has begun. But who will lead the revolution?
Fable 3. Oh man, do I hate this game. This game is a prime example of having nice ideas, but being horribly executed. The combat at its core is okay, but it's way too easy. Too easy that I can get boring playing the game for the combat. The menu interface system is horrible. It's simply horrible. Probably one of the worst menu interface system I have seen or played in a video game. From just switching your items, switching your armor, modifying your option menus, even buying stuff from the shops. It's horrible. It's just ugh. On all, the menu interface system makes everything a pain to go through. Seriously, it's just awful. And the leveling system is similar to the main interface system. It's simple in nature, but the way that you can go through leveling this game is such a pain to go through that it's annoying just to level up your stat and level up your character. And the story is disappointing. It's disappointing because the build up to certain events in this story is pretty good. The way they build up the main antagonist of the story, the way they building up your forces near in the second half of the game, the way they'll build up you being a ruler near the end of the game. But the payoff is extremely disappointing on all counts. Down to the confrontation with the main antagonist, which is your brother, which you probably know just from playing through the intro. The payoff for building up your forces, and the payoff for being king in the game, which is the main premise of the game, or the premise that the trailers of the game try to build up to. You would think being king would be pretty exciting, but they do it in such a lazy way that it's simply boring. All in all, the game has nice ideas, but it's horribly executed. Just horribly executed. But as much as I hate this game, I have to give it some props. Visually, it looks beautiful. The art style, the graphical fidelity, it looks great just playing through the game on Xbox 360. And the humor and dialogue is pretty good and left me laughing for a bit, especially for one of the side quests. And why I didn't really felt connected to any of the characters, I have to say that I really like Walter when I was playing through the game. But still, the minor good it doesn't really help the game at all. It's still a terrible game in my opinion. And really, it's all style, no substance. So yeah, Fable 3 is my most hated game on Xbox 360. Not only because it's a terrible game in my opinion, but also because I love the original Fable. It's not my favorite game, but I had tons of fun playing through the game. And Fable 3 is just, even Fable 2, why I don't like as much as Fable 1, I still had a good amount of fun playing through Fable 2. So overall, it's just sad seeing that each installment of the Fable series keeps getting progressively worse. Yeah. But if you enjoy the game, good for you. I won't antagonize you for it. It's your opinion. If you really enjoy the game, more power to you. I'm happy that you're able to enjoy the game. But for me personally, Fable 3 is my most hated game on the Xbox 360. Just because it's wasted potential. It could have been a pretty good game, but the end result is simply terrible. But even my most hated game is not the worst game I've played on the Xbox 360. And the worst game I've played is...
The death toll is not yet known.
Turning Point, Fall of Liberty. What can I say? Everything about this game is bad. The gunplay is bad. Animations are bad. Visuals are bad. It isn't really all that interesting. It basically, the story, while having interesting concept, doesn't really do anything with that concept. It's pretty uninteresting. And overall, it's just a boring game. A really boring game that somehow played for. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a boring game. A boring game to me, why not objectively better than a disappointing game? It still feel better to me than a disappointing game. So yeah. And I can't really find a redeeming quality in Turning Point Fall of Liberty. It is possibly the objectively worst game I own in my collection. So yeah. Anyway, that's my look back at Xbox 360. Hope you enjoyed this video. Overall, in hindsight, I really like the Xbox 360. It's a really good console. It's just that the hardware problems at the start of the console's lifetime is a real problem to me, and is probably the reason why it's my least favorite console out of the three main consoles. If there wasn't the hardware problem at the start, it would probably be my second favorite console. I mean, it has a nice design, the controller is good, the online is fantastic, the menu interface system just to navigate through your games, your media stuff is great. And overall, it's just a great console. It's just the hardware problem at the start that really holds it back for me. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and next time I'm going to be talking about the second console I got during this generation, which is the PS3. Well, that's all for this video, folks. See you next time.